I was making this really big mistake. Even though I had all this knowledge around health, I knew what I was supposed to do. I wanted to get in better shape. I wanted to get healthier, and I was hungry all the time. And I was thinking about food every single day. And I was like, come on, you can do this. You can do this. Welcome to the Mastering Mindfulness Institute with me, Gina Warfel, a podcast that invites you on a journey to self-trust with your food and body so you can reclaim your health with confidence. As a registered dietitian who has multiple degrees in health, and yet I was constantly at war with my body and couldn't trust myself with food, I've made it my mission to show you that coming into harmony with your food and body is all possible. I challenge conventional and outdated ways of dieting to show you how to step into sovereignty over your food choices and life. I can't wait to share with you the depths of my own journey, as well as thoughts from experts and real human beings on their journey, just like you. Thanks for listening. Hey, welcome back. Today I want to talk about the biggest mistake that I see people make when they're trying to change their health or lose weight. If you feel like you are on your path to trying to be healthier, but you feel like it is so hard, like every day is a fight, you're thinking about food all day long, if you feel hungry all the time, and you're like white-knuckling it, trying to get through the day, and you're like, I can do this, and you're wondering, how do people do it? Are they hungry all day long? If they do get healthy, are they starving all day? Do they think about food all the time? Are they obsessed as I am, but struggling as much as I am internally? This episode is for you. I want you to really understand this because I didn't understand it for many, many years. And I was in that same place, struggling, white-knuckling every day, holding on, wondering, how do I do this? And there was a really key science piece that I was missing that I think the entire health industry is missing. I think that the health industry is steering our approach wrong, but most people just don't even know. I don't know why this isn't talked about or well known, but I think that most nutritionists don't know this. I think most dietitians don't know this. This mistake in this new method is not what we were taught in school, but there's basic science to it. I'm going to break the whole thing down. So when I went the path of what my schooling taught me, unfortunately, it was a struggle. It was a daily battle. I was making this really big mistake. Even though I had all this knowledge around health, I knew what I was supposed to do. I wanted to get in better shape. I wanted to get healthier, and I was hungry all the time. And I was thinking about food every single day. And I was like, come on, you can do this. You can do this. Every day it took this big mounting of motivation and this fighting with my food and fighting with my body. And it's not meant to be that way. Our bodies are designed to come into a natural state of balance and health. And it shouldn't be very difficult and hard. If it's very hard, that's a sign that, okay, there's something inside of my chemistry that is off, because my body was designed to be in a healthy balance, to be in alignment. I should, in theory, just eat how much food I need and then feel satisfied, and my body and my weight can normally be maintained. When it feels like a challenge for that to happen, that's a sign that something in my internal chemistry is off. And most people, when they try to get it back into balance and they try to eat healthier and lose weight, they take a wrong approach that's the most common approach that makes it very difficult, very challenging, and it feels like they're at war with their body. So if you are there, I understand, because even though I had so much health knowledge, so much nutrition knowledge, I was like, why can't I do this? Why do I feel starving all day long? Is this what it's going to be forever? But then when I considered, what were my only options? Do I give up and continue down this path that I'm not happy with in my health? Do I try to starve myself every day? Or maybe not starve, but like, am I going to be hungry all day long? Am I going to have to think about food? Should I have more accountability? Should I tell someone what I'm going to eat and have them check in on me? Do I need a coach? Should I track my food and write things down? I was already trying that. I was like writing down calories, what I was eating, but that wasn't really like working. And so I got to this like really deep hopelessness of how I couldn't see a way out. How am I ever going to get out of this? And how am I going to help people that I work with get out of this? Because every day feels really, really hard. And I think that this is really important because especially if you are in the health field, if you're a nutritionist, a dietitian, or you're a health coach, or you work with people, this is really, really important to know. We need to start stepping out of the conventional model that isn't really working very well. And we know this because the problem out there isn't health information. Most of us have access to it at our fingertips. We can type it into Google. We can read a book. We have an abundance of information. Health coaches, dietitians, health professionals, they're an amazing resource, amazing source of nutrition and knowledge and expertise. But I think that the biggest challenge is the fight to make the changes for many, many people. At least it was for myself and a lot of the people who I was working with at the time who were also really struggling to change their health. So I realized there's a question here that I have not yet been able to solve at the time. What is going on? Why is it so hard? And I wondered, for people who are really healthy and they're in great shape, does it feel like a war for them? Are they starving all the time? And I started getting curious and asking people who were like healthy, like, so are you like hungry all the time? And I really wanted to know, are they starving? Are they fighting like I am just to get through one day? And there was a really big mistake I was making that I was taught in school that was causing this inner struggle. Once I understood this inner struggle, it completely changed the way that I work with people today. So the biggest mistake that I was making, that I see other people making, other health professionals making, is that when they want to get healthier, their first approach is to eat less or change the foods that you're eating. That's kind of like the standard diet or health coaching or nutrition world. When you want to get healthier, you cut back on how much you're eating or you change the foods that you're eating. When we take this approach first, it creates a lot of difficulty in our bodies. And I want to explain and break down from a scientific level why. But once I started learning the science and teaching my clients to take a completely different approach, what they found was that their body, instead of fighting and forcing their body into like this restriction and hunger and fighting food, all of a sudden they became more in tune with their natural hunger and their natural fullness levels. And then weight loss became easier. They didn't have to think about food all day. They were not obsessing over food all day. They were not fighting their own bodies and their cravings all day. And I found that for myself. What I found was that when I made this change, I don't have to force anything anymore. Now it just feels like my body balances out naturally. So this has become my number one core strategy that I teach my students, my clients, how I do it for myself. I'm going to share all of it with you here today. My core strategy that I don't really see a lot of other health people doing. And I think it's so important. I'm going to tell you what it is. Don't worry. So the biggest mistake I see people make is that the first step that they take is they cut back how much food they're eating or they change what they're eating. So this is a taking away method. The reason why that this is difficult is because most people, most of our population has elevated stress hormones. And our stress hormones are designed to put us in a state of fight or flight. That is your stress hormone cortisol. When cortisol goes up because you are stressed, it could be that you have day-to-day normal stress. It could be that you're on the computer all day and that you're getting texts all day and emails all day. And maybe you have to pick up your kids and you have to go here and you have to go there. And you're stressed about money and you're not really sure what's happening in your relationship. And like all these little things accumulate in our mind, in our subconscious mind, and can increase our stress hormones. Back in the day, the way that our bodies were designed, our stress hormones were only supposed to be elevated when we were in a state of survival, when we were supposed to go into fight or flight so that we could actually obtain more food for survival. And then it's supposed to normalize and balance out. It's our body's survival mechanisms that we're born with. When most people today on our day-to-day are living in a high cortisol state, that puts you in a chronic state of fight or flight. When you're in a chronic state of fight or flight, it shifts your body's internal physiology. So when cortisol is high, that signals to the hypothalamus in our brain, we're in a state of survival. We need more food. We need excess food, excess calories as protection. So our appetite goes up. our ghrelin, that hunger hormone, increases and goes up. And leptin, which makes us feel full, goes down. So it blocks the signaling of that hormone that allows us to feel full, that leptin. So you might eat a meal and then you still feel hungry after, or you feel hungry a half an hour later or 20 minutes later when you're like, wait a second, based on my food log, I should be full, but my body still feels hungry. That's that cortisol that's affecting your hunger and fullness hormones. So when my cortisol was really high, I was tracking my food, but feeling hungry and in this animalistic like state where I'm like on the prowl looking for food. And I'm like, why do I feel this insatiable, hunger that I just can't quite shake? And that makes sense, right? From a science perspective, when you're in this animalistic like state, your hunger hormones go up and your satisfied hormones come back down. So it completely shifts your physiology. And so you might be recording your food, you might be trying to eat less, and you're like, what is wrong with me? Now I'm confused because I'm trying to listen to my body and I'm trying to, people say, oh, just listen to your body. And I'm trying to do that, but I actually feel hungry all the time. And I'm trying to track my food and it says that I should stop eating, but I'm still hungry. This is that cortisol state. And it's really important to recognize because most people are living in this state. When I was doing labs with my clients, I would always test their cortisol levels because that's the big domino. It's hard to change your eating and your health if your cortisol is high because your appetite will always be revved up. So cortisol was like the number one lab that I would do with my clients. Every client I've ever had always had extremely high off the charts cortisol, but they didn't know. They just like live that way. And I understand because I was the same way. What took me down this path of understanding cortisol was because I was like, there must be something wrong with my body. My hormones must be off. My thyroid must be off. Like my health doesn't feel right and I can't figure out why. So I did labs and I tested my cortisol and it was extremely high through the roof. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this cortisol number? And that's really what led me down the deeper path of understanding how does our stress response influence everything else in our body. I started researching cortisol and the adrenals and our stress response and what is happening. So I understood it really, really well. So that was a sign for me that I'm like, whoa, my body thinks that I'm like running from a wild animal all the time. I'm hungry all the time. And then I started testing my clients' cortisol levels and theirs were through the roof high all the time. And when they tried to eat less, they were like, like it's a struggle. I'm fighting. I'm having to use all this force because they're fighting their body's own instincts. So you're going head to head. I don't know why more of the world doesn't know this. Everybody should know this. This is now the foundation of how I help people. Right? If you do it the old school way, which is the way that I do it, all of my clients struggled to change. They had a really hard time. But now when we focus on, okay, my body is probably in a stressed state. If I'm hungry all the time, if I'm self-sabotaging, if I have cravings, if I'm thinking about food all the time, that is nervous system dysregulation. 9 times out of 10. This isn't a diagnosis, but 9 times out of 10, you probably have maybe 10 out of 10 have nervous system dysregulation. So if you feel like, what's wrong with me? Am I broken? Why can't I do this? Why is it easy for other people and it's not easy for me? Your sister might have a regulated nervous system. And so for her, it feels very easy to like eat a certain amount of food and honor her body and be done. And for you, you're like, why do I count calories and I willpower my way through and I'm hungry all the time and I feel like I have no control? That's that animalistic like state. So you might be trying to get to health. You might try to get to this destination endpoint, but you guys have 2 different experiences of it. For one person, it's really easy. For the other person, it is tough and it's suffering. So the way that I support people in making this process a lot easier, this is what we do in the Mastering Mindfulness Institute. We don't focus on taking away food and restricting and counting. We focus on bringing more attention and awareness to how is my nervous system doing? How do I internally feel? Can I bring so much awareness to how my nervous system feels? So what I like to do is have people really notice, what does it feel like when my nervous system is activated? I know that that's bringing up my cortisol. you'll probably notice a difference. Before I understood this, I didn't have awareness of it. So I would be clenching my jaw all the time. I would be contracting all the time. Everything was in a state of contraction. Everything was tight and contracted, holding my breath. That's a sign of like if you have neck pains, back pains, jaw pains, tightness, that's a sign that even on a micro level, your nervous system, your stress system is like protection. Especially because even on a micro level, I can explain this really well because this has been my whole path. I've had neck pains since childhood. And for the longest time, I thought this was just needed a physical adjustment. But the more that I learn about my nervous system, the more my neck relaxes, even on a micro level, small little micro contractions, because that is protection. We contract our necks to protect our head and our necks. That's a survival mechanism. So what are signs that your nervous system is activated? If you're clenching, if you're holding your breath, if you breathe up here, really shallow breaths, that's like that hyperventilation, shallow breaths, contracted, holding your breath, contracting your neck, even just signs that you don't have control over your food or you're thinking about food all day. You can start to notice, what are signs for me that my body is in a stress state, and bringing awareness to that. What I would start to do is notice, okay, can I use my breath to calm my nervous system? The cool thing about the breath is that it is autonomic, like it automatically breathes our bodies itself. It does its own thing, but we can also regulate our breath to regulate our nervous system. So you can try that. Give it a try right away. Take a nice slow breath. Maybe even try 2 or 3. What do you notice inside of your body when you do that? Do you feel your body open up and relax? Do you feel your muscles let go? If you do that for a minute, you'll start to feel your nervous system, where you can use your breath to create safety, to signal to your body, we're in a safe state. When your breathing is shallow, that signals to your nervous system, we're in fight or flight. When your breathing is slow and deeper, that signals to your body, we're safe. So you can use your breath to regulate your nervous system. When your nervous system gets regulated, your body internally gets that signal that we're in a safe state. And then your hormone levels will rebalance for your hunger to rebalance. So it might be a couple different things. I don't want to minimize it that this is a very simple, easy process. It is simple and easy to take a breath and feel your nervous system get regulated. But if you're in a chronic state of fight or flight, you might be constantly trying to use that breath and constantly trying to re-regulate. So what is helpful is to do a deeper exploration and get used to calming your nervous system. So instead of, with my clients, instead of having them jump out of the day and do all these things that activate their nervous system, exercise and jump into their phones and jump into a crazy chaotic day, that increases their cortisol, that increases your nervous system stress. If you start your day by not looking at your phone for just a few minutes, doesn't have to be all morning, just a few minutes, take a pause from your phone and then calm your nervous system with your breath, create that safety and see what your body's needing. Most of my clients have had the most success with being able to rebalance out their body by starting their day with just a short check-in and meditation. It doesn't have to be an hour-long meditation, but something to just use the breath to regulate the nervous system and bring down those stress hormones. You can feel it. Now, when your nervous system does get calm, it's in that space that you can then feel, is there more that's coming up for me that is creating my nervous system activation? What am I stressed about? Do I have relationship stress? Do I have financial stress? Do I not feel like I have safety in my body because I've been dieting my whole life? In my childhood, did I have a safe home? Do I need to restore this safety in my body? That can be a little bit of a journey to go on, to travel on. This is really the deeper exploration that we do in Mastering Mindfulness. So be aware of, where do I need to regulate my nervous system? But once you do, that changes everything. Once you regulate your nervous system, now your appetite can balance and normalize. So it's much more effective that if you're trying to change your health, by maybe you make some food changes, but the core foundation of what you're doing is breathing techniques, is meditation, is slowing down your body and your nervous system and finding those places of where your body and your nervous system feels activated. Because if you're in a state of fight or flight, your appetite will be abnormally heightened. You'll be on this animalistic prowl for food, and change will feel really difficult. So you might be saying, meditation and breathing isn't enough. It's too slow. Well, I can tell you that the other method is slower, because you're going to be facing and pushing up against your own nervous system. So slow is fast and fast is slow. Go slow, regulate your body, regulate your nervous system, create safety in your nervous system first, and then your appetite balances out and you feel more in control over your food. You feel more in tune with how much food you need. Now I don't have to count calories. I don't have to track my food, because I trust in my hunger levels, because they're not skewed. They're not abnormal. They're not heightened for survival. They're normal baseline because my body feels safe. So I don't have to track. I don't need accountability. I don't need to tell someone what I'm eating. I don't need to count. I don't need to keep foods out of the house. I just really trust myself, because I re-regulated my nervous system and I got my hormones back recalibrated. That's how I got my trust back. It doesn't happen by just saying, I want to listen to my body, because I couldn't just listen to my body before, because my hunger levels were skewed. So if you're I want to listen to my body, but I just can't, I don't trust myself, I feel hungry, I don't know if I'm hungry or not, that's just the nervous system state. That's just your sign. Don't focus on more restriction, focus on creating safety in your nervous system, and then it will get all so much easier. So I hope this was helpful. Definitely let me know. Give it a comment. You can also message me and let me know what resonated with you. What I want to say is that this path becomes so much easier. It feels like harmony with our bodies when we learn these mechanisms. We learn the science of how our hormones shift and change. We know that they're so powerful. They influence our food choices. It's not always about what you know or your ability to restrict. It's about learning how to work with all the mechanisms of what this body does, how it shifts and adapts and changes. And then there's no frustration with our body, because we just understand, oh, this is how my body works. This is how things shift and change, and it adapts and it responds, and it's here for me and for my survival. So it's not about fighting your body and being it worth it, but learning how to work with it. So I hope that this was helpful and insightful. If it was, let me know, and I'll catch you guys next time.